Continuing with the previous video in this series, I'll begin discussing Chinese music during Xia Dynasty, 2070 BC to 1600 BC. The main form of this first period was the use of chime bells and drums, while dance gradually separated from music. The music content slowly also moved to major events that were important to commemorate. In addition to be intended as entertainment, music and dance were also used to pray, which was led by the tribal chief. One representative music and dance was 大夏 or the Great 夏 in praise of 大禹治水 or 禹 the Great Controlled Water. My video number D006 explains the rise of Xia Dynasty in China. One representative music and dance at the beginning of Yinshang Dynasty, around 1600 BC to 1046 BC, was 大户, which told the story of the Yinshang Dynasty overthrowing Xia Dynasty. 5 pentatonic notes, each named gong, shang, jiao, zhi, and yu, were recorded to be dominant in the music of that era. With the common of which practice, a new profession of musicians dedicated to dancing and singing during praying ceremonies arose. Getting into the Bronze Age, apart from making many ding or formal tripod incense ash container, many bronze musical instruments were also created, such as a row of bronze chime bells with half-tone scales. Other musical instruments included drums, rows of cymbal bells and 陶埙 round earthenware wind instruments. From 5000 BC, 陶埙 evolved from single hole, 2 holes to 5 holes. These 5 holes could sound 12 half tones in the scale. 周公旦 in the early of Zhou Dynasty, 1046 BC to 256 BC, meticulously established 礼乐制度 or rituals and music system. Confucius, 551 BC to 479 BC, then compiled the song and poem parts into his 诗经 or book of poetry. Zhou Dynasty placed great importance on music, using music as well as education and etiquette to regulate the social cultural order. According to Confucius, music is an important means of perfecting one's personality. 兴于诗，立于礼，成于乐 or learning begins from the book of poetry, based on etiquette or ritual, achievement on music. Poetry and literature were related to song and music. All the poems in the book of poetry were accompanied with notes to sing. Because of great attention from the palace, music developed vastly. The most important music was named 雅乐 or honored music. This type of music was a combination of rows of chime bells and drums accompanied by dancing, a grande and very luxurious scenes. From the book of poetry and 楚辞九歌 or 9 songs of Chu dialect composed by 屈原 about 343 BC to 278 BC, showed the development and advancement of music in the era. Zhou Dynasty collected as well folk songs to observe the customs and conditions of the people. Therefore, the book of poetry recorded a large number of folk songs, which was the first collection of poems and songs. And from these 礼乐制度 book of poetry and 楚辞九歌, we can see that there were already real-time records of Chinese music in existence. Although, according to legend, the musical instrument 古琴 predates the Confucius era, the book of poetry is also the first record of it. 古琴, also known as 七弦琴 or ancient Chinese lyre, was the main musical instrument for the development of Chinese music in the second period. And coincidentally, in 2016 the oldest 古琴 from around the Confucius era was found. The book of 管子 chapter 地缘 estimated 770 BC to 221 BC, recorded 三分损益法 or the 3-part profit or loss method, which is a natural tone with its multiples of its frequency which can produce natural falsetto, thus forming harmonization, but also causes non-returnable to its tonal. How does a natural tone with its multiples frequencies, or more commonly known as the natural scale temperament, misleads its tonal My video number C013 gives a glimpse idea on it. In 1978, the tomb of
Zheng Houyi,
circa 477 BC to 433 BC, was discovered and found 8 kinds, 124 musical instruments, including rows of chime bells, rows of cymbal bells, etc., which provides a crucial picture on court music of the period, including instrument formats, performance arrangements, 12 half-tone theory, note names, court rhythm methods, etc. While they are complete with half-tone sets of instruments, each chime bell can also produce 2 different pitches if it is hit exactly at the marked location for each pitch.
Qin
Dynasty, 221 BC to 207 BC, began to form music officials and continued
Zhou
dynasty in collecting the folk elements as well as gathering a large number of musicians. Court lyrics were called
乐府诗
or music poetry of the high court. Then the meaning of
乐府诗
extended to all kinds of lyrics as well, whether for music or not. Even some operas or instrumental music were also called
乐府诗
the official poetry of
Han
Dynasty, 202 BC to 220 AD, was collected and recorded into
汉乐府
or music of the high court of
汉
The main form was 1 or 3 pure vocal singers, and gradually accompanied by musical instruments, which then developed completely with the standard structure. The northwest neighboring countries had various different wind and percussion instrument structures and systems, such as horizontal wind instrument and percussion. They were played for military ceremony, palace banquets as well as public feast. This musical culture was very influential in the
Han
Dynasty, after the opening of the Silk Road by Emperor
Wu
156 BC to 87 BC. Currently, wind and percussion music inherits the wind and percussion music of that era. There was also
百戏
or various performances which were programs that combined singing, dancing, acrobatics and wrestling. Developing from the 3-part profit or loss method,
京房
77 BC to 37 BC, divided an octave into 60 tones. Although not applied to music, this theory shows detailed consideration of tonal laws, and resulted in a 53 equidistant note system. One representative music was
蔡氏舞弄
or to be repeated 5-time song of
蔡
surname by
蔡邕
133 to 192. A current very famous song,
孔雀东南飞
or The Peacock Flies to the Southeast, has its poem from
汉乐府
At the end of
Han
Dynasty, there was another schism in China, namely the well-known
三国
or Three Kingdoms period, 220 to 280, and
魏
or
曹魏
Dynasty, 220 to 266, was established, substituting
Han
Dynasty. And the Second Chinese Music period, which will be the topic of the next video in this series, was started, and would last until the end of the first millennium. It is in this second period that European music will begin to be incorporated side by side with Chinese music. Thank you for watching.